This is a systems dynamics mind map of a complex adaptive situation at the Command and General Staff College of the U.S. Army at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. Let me walk you through the time and space model here. It begins with a sense that the world produces for us personally formative events, especially in the military. Our experiences tend to crystallize at moments of great stress and magnitude, often in combat. Lessons are internalized that we never ever forget. And some number of Army officers go on to become Army senior leaders who are stationed at the Pentagon here and represent the guiding force behind the development of everything that the Army does and stands for. Crystallized from their experience is an evolving Army leadership model, which describes in general how as an organization we seek to lead and be led. That finds its way to the Command and General Staff College or the school, which codifies that into doctrine, seeks to educate along best practices, acts as a gatekeeper for this distilled wisdom, and has a certain moderating effect with respect to major waves of change that come out of the world. So in a very real sense, through that process, we can see that the world and our experience of the world is formalized into doctrine, which informs the schoolhouse. There's another sense that the schoolhouse seeks to impart along this red arrow the best of our knowledge and wisdom to students through the good offices and interventions and deliberations and teaching of faculty who come out of the world as well. And this intersection or this interaction between faculty and students and doctrine occurs at the schoolhouse and then informs and guides the operations of various units that are formed that students upon graduation go to command and to lead and to plan. And those units are deployed into the world and achieve results. And from that experience, just as we saw earlier, that the experience in the world shapes qualitative leadership judgment, because we recognize that leadership is more than simply that which can be measured quantitatively. And we place a great degree of trust on our tribal wisdom and the insights of elders and the lessons that we learned after great reflection, and which I've described here as a qualitative leadership model or qualitative leadership judgment, which goes iteratively and reflexively back to inform the leadership model, is reported back to the Pentagon, the Department of Army, and is used to shape doctrine and plans and lessons learned and forward-looking campaign concepts. There's a very real sense among our faculty and students of the importance of feeding back unit experience and graduate student experience back directly into the schoolhouse and not necessarily through the iterative lessons learned process that takes information and distills it into Army senior leadership wisdom. There's a sensing of a need for a direct pipeline for field experience back into the schoolhouse to update directly the doctrine and best practices. There's another sense of concern that emerges in a participatory action research focus group that included students, faculty, and senior leaders that takes the following idea a little bit further. Students are those officers from the world who come and study our best practices in conjunction with the faculty. They have direct recent experience of the world and its complexity and what's working and what's not working, what the issues are. Perhaps nobody's more well-informed or experienced than the students. Senior leaders are those Army leaders that cycle through the college for a tour of 1 to 2 years, who bring distilled wisdom from broad exposure to the world and a depth of experience from years and years of a career, and provide direct guidance, and they take the form of Army senior leadership and operationalize it into the school. And they have a very recent experience as well. The faculty occupies an interesting position in that they used to be students and may have been senior leaders themselves, but because they are at least one step removed from the world as a consequence of their career in the school, there's a delta now between the immediate experience of students and senior leaders with the world and the tribal wisdom encoded in the faculty, who have a responsibility for taking doctrine and best practice and informing students and their practice and modifying their experience, helping them to explore their experience, hoping to extract the experience of students while they're in school and beyond to update doctrine in a direct way, and not just through the deliberate planning process that doctrine normally follows, but somehow seasoning that with direct experience and direct feedback. So there's a very real sense now of competing values and competing visions of the world and what the nature of success is and what ought to be taught inside the school. And so we're very much concerned about that dynamic tension between the timeless wisdom and goodness of doctrine and the immediacy of the present and our direct lessons learned. We're concerned about the narrowness of scope of immediate experience, and we're concerned about how much of that can be generalized to update and inform doctrine. And yet we want to remain relevant to students who come from the world and are getting ready to go back to the world, and being able to demonstrate relevance and utility to them is a matter of great concern to us and them, to ensure that what happens here between faculty, student, and the school is of the highest quality. So there is a dynamic tension here that is seasoned by time and informed by a changing state of the world as we try to sort out what are the future needs likely to be based on our experience with the world through time and our exposure to its current state. What does the future hold for us, and how can we anticipate that? How can we get in front of that and ensure that doctrine is as adaptive as the world that it's trying to inform? This is a non-trivial, dynamic situation, and not one that can be rendered into a formula, we think, but one that requires a healthy dose of adaptive, direct experience and the best of timeless wisdom that we find from doctrine, and finding the right mix of those things. A non-trivial task in a complex adaptive system.